Sex, guns, and lies. That's how prosecutors say an alleged Kremlin secret agent infiltrated American politics, getting close to Trump allies.
A Russian woman with deep ties to key Republican players and the National Rifle Association during the 2016 campaign pleaded guilty in federal court to one count of failing to register as a foreign agent.
Maria Butina came up. She wanted you to come to Russia and speak. You went to the federal government to tell them that a Russian suspicious person was telling you this. They said, keep it going. All true?
All true.
The DOJ claims that at least 2 Americans engaged with Butina. What more do we know about who they may be and their alleged roles?
So from September of 2015 through March of 2016, I saw her. I'm a 56-year-old bachelor. I said, let's every 6 weeks we'll meet somewhere. You pick the place.
Person number 1 is Paul Erickson. Person number 2 is more of a mystery, but I'm not going to speculate about that.
Because she was talking about schmoozing with politicians, and she told me that this guy Torsion had assigned her, whether Hillary, Cruz, Rubio, or Trump won, she was to have a contact in that administration.
According to court documents, Butina allegedly took steps to develop relationships with American politicians in order to advance the interests of the Russian Federation.
So that kind of talk bothered me, and I was reporting it, and they kept on dismissing it. And I thought that was odd.
A former U.S. official acknowledged the investigation who told my Washington Post colleagues, to anyone who doubts that the Russian counterintelligence threat is real, this complaint against Butina should be further proof it's a threat that is live, real, and urgent that the country needs to grapple with.
Once it was clear she was only going to be swanking around with Republicans, they went completely hands-off.
Do you think that the right is warming up to Russia, considering the connections Butina had and was developing while in the U.S. through the NRA and other organizations?
At one point I learned in several weeks she's going to some convention in the South. I thought it was Tennessee, and the conservative convention. Don Jr. is going to be taken on a Sunday afternoon at 2 o'clock out the back of his hotel, taken up this road and driven up the road to her hotel, spend 60 minutes with her.
Of all of the people that Maria Butina intersected with, there's Alexander Torshin, who's right to the right of her. You've obviously got Vladimir Putin out there, but look up to the up and to the left. Up and to the left there is Donald Trump Jr., who she briefly met at one of these NRA conventions.
I was like, what are we going to do? You want me to take her away for the weekend? And they said, let it all happen. So you got to be kidding. They said, we're going to let it all happen.
Should Donald Trump Jr. be worried about this indictment?
Now there finally are indictments. There are consequences. And if that's going to continue, then yes, Donald Trump Jr. is certainly somebody who should be concerned.
Their behavior was so strange. It's almost like...
And by they, you're saying people in the FBI. You don't have to tell me who they are, but you say that you know who they are.
Yeah.
And the prosecution is delaying her sentencing because of her cooperation, which of course is of interest to Robert Mueller.
That I was thinking it's almost like they're letting this scandal develop, and someday they're going to shake it up and crack it and spread it all over the Republican Party. And then I thought, well, there's no way the FBI would do it. There's no way President Obama would do that. I like President Obama.
Photos show her with NRA CEO Wayne LaPierre and Republican Governor Scott Walker. She sent this photo of herself near the Capitol during Mr. Trump's inauguration to a Russian official, who responded calling her a, quote, daredevil girl.
It was weaponized. I was in the middle of it. Our law enforcement was weaponized. I'm sorry. I like President Obama very much. I did not vote for Donald Trump.
The NRA was a major donor to the president's campaign, and we now have this charge that a Russian agent had ties to the NRA. Could this possibly develop into part of that collusion case against the president?
I had that hypothesis by December 2015. Are they letting this happen so someday they're going to pull the pin and there's some explosion of Russian scandal?
Despite Presidents Trump and Putin dismissing Russian interference in the 2016 election today, we just got even more evidence of Russia's penetration of the American political system.
About 3 months later, in July 1st or so, they came back to me and said, boy, what a mistake we made. Russia, you're right, there's this Russia, this gal Maria, oh my gosh.
A Russian national, Maria Butina, was arrested yesterday in Washington, D.C. She's being charged with conspiracy to act as an agent of the Russian Federation inside the U.S.
The FBI wanted you to continue your association to get information. They never told you you needed to have a romantic relationship with somebody.
Well, eventually, yes, they did.
That means that in addition to everything that's being investigated by the special counsel, that means there's a whole separate criminal and counterintelligence case about a whole other variety of secret Russian government influence on the Republican Party around the 2016 campaign.
They said, we want to be clear. This never happens in the United States. We are the good guys. We don't work like the bad guys, but we need to ask you to rekindle a romantic relationship with Maria Butina. And
members of the FBI that you're sure were members of the FBI asked you to do this.
Federal prosecutors accuse Maria Butina of being a Russian agent who allegedly offered sex in exchange for a job where she could influence U.S. policy.
You believe that Jim Comey knew that you were being asked to do these things in the name of the United States government?
Not only knew, I was specifically told this request is coming from Jim Comey at the request of somebody who I'm not going to name. Do not assume it's the president. Do not assume it was the President Obama. Do not assume that.
Butina faces up to 15 years in prison. Last week, she was denied a request to be released into house arrest.
This was all fed into the DOJ on April 5th and April 30th. 9 days later, on May 9th, they moved Maria Butina from an isolation cell in a SHU unit in Virginia to the nicest women's camp in the federal system.
What Maria Butina did, it was serious, it was sophisticated, it was dangerous, it could have jeopardized national security here in the U.S.
The government does not allege our government does not allege she was a spy. It alleges she was an agent of influence.
She was never charged with espionage. The lesser charge she pleaded to included admitting she tried to infiltrate Republican political circles and influence U.S. relations with Russia.
Let me tell you, they knew about Maria Butina the day she landed in the United States, and they knew about every meeting she had with people like Don Jr. before she had them from me.
But now that Butina's been charged, some are wondering whether this could be the bridge to a possible collusion case.
You gave the DOJ the names of the FBI people you met with?
And I'm not the only whistleblower coming forward.
Says she was unfairly accused of trading sex to get political access. Prosecutors later retracted that accusation, blaming it on a misinterpretation of her text messages.
Are you willing to testify under oath to all this?
Of course.
Russia is really taking very seriously these efforts to, infiltrate U.S. political systems and also influence elections, and that's pretty key as we're heading into the midterms.
And you think Jim Comey knew?
100%.